Welcome to the Time for Heroes podcast.
Time for Heroes podcast.
Hi, this is Dave McNally, and you're watching Time for Heroes podcast.
Dave McNally, absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Bumped into your dad a couple of weeks ago in a taxi, and he was telling me all about you. I don't know how I missed you at the time because I know the band. But I were going to get into it. So you were part of Luna the Professor, a big band from my local area, and now you're doing lots of other stuff within music that you're going to touch on. But I'd like to go right back to the start. What was early life like for you growing up?
Well, it was a mixture of things. So I was diagnosed with autism when I was 2, and I grew up with quite a lot of kind of struggle socially. So it's kind of hard to believe, but I genuinely couldn't communicate with anyone. I was I couldn't really string a sentence together. So if I was wanting to actually, if I wanted something, I would physically show my mum or my dad, I want this or I want that, or even just verbally try and say it, but the words wouldn't really come out and stuff. And I struggled in big kind of group settings, and I just, I struggled to go out, and used to watch a lot of obviously you watch a lot of kind of kids programs when you grow up and stuff. Things like Spider-Man and all the CBB shows you'd watch on TV and stuff. I would genuinely be addicted to that, to the point where I'd copy it. And I had a Spider-Man suit, and I would not leave the house when my mum would want to go shopping up the street, and I'd be rocking about in a blooming Spider-Man suit. So I really did kind of mask myself, as they say in the autistic world.
Mm-hmm.
Masking. And another thing as well called echolalia, which is things you kind of look at and kind of basically copy and repeat from programs you've watched. So that's how I kind of started to learn how to kind of really communicate. I got lots of help from school and stuff. Yeah, lots of kind of growing up struggles and stuff. Never would think that I would be where I am right now, because as I went to high school, I went to a school called Brannock, and they had a support needs kind of department, a language communication base, but you were still put in normal classes and stuff. So classes of 20, your usual kind of stuff. But before all that, I was in a primary school with a class of 6. So it was all kids with autism, some kids with ADHD as well. But obviously went to high school, it was a lot different. And I guess what helped was everyone was quite welcoming and made you feel normal. So you kind of learned how to kind of be normal, do things normally and communicate and stuff. Obviously, in your adolescence, you learn a lot, if not more, when you're autistic. It doesn't count for every person with autism. I guess I was one of the lucky ones, and during high school, that's when I started to kind of discover music. It was in the home, really. I didn't really kind of do it through school and stuff. My family are very musical. My dad grew up with 15 brothers and sisters, and they were all very musically inclined. And my dad played a bit of guitar. He wasn't the best guitarist and stuff, but my uncles and stuff, they played piano and guitar and sang and stuff like that. Every time I'd go around to a family gathering, there would always be a little jam session and stuff like that, a little drink and that, a little sing song. So I guess that part definitely, had a big influence on music growing up and stuff. So I'd just basically self-teach myself how to play guitar and go on YouTube and watch Marty Schwartz, the go-to guy. I'm sure everyone watching will know who I'm talking about. Marty Schwartz, he's the go-to guy to learn songs. Yeah, he definitely kind of was a big part of that. And then I started to sing, started to post things on Facebook, made an arse of myself, and then I get bullied in school. So that's another thing. But joined a school band and stuff, and done gigs. I've done Battle of the Bands and stuff. So yeah, a lot of experience to the point where I joined a band called Luna the Professor, but we were called the Vistas at the time. That's a different story, obviously. If you've obviously heard of the band Vistas, who are very big right now, there's a reason why we're called Luna the Professor. that's a different story. Yeah, like we achieved a lot. We sold out King Tut's
Yeah,
twice, I think.
I've got it all written down. So
Yeah,
we'll get into that. We'll get back to that. But obviously, like touching on schooling and the autism,
yeah,
because my boy is 18 and he's autistic.
yeah,
He was at St Brendan's, and then he moved to New Stevenson in primary five, and then he went to Brannock as well. So just looking at Brannock, obviously, if we go in there for his graduation and stuff, and seeing see like the music department there, really good. There's so many of his pals were in bands, playing in Glasgow and all that at the moment. So was that the music department at Brannock? Was that helpful in your? Obviously, you said a lot of your stuff at home, but how did the schooling help with the music?
See, I think, well, in Brannock, you'd have like assistant teachers and stuff, um, like help you in classes and stuff. So, like, if you were struggling with a maths question or whatever question, I'd always ask for help because I genuinely wasn't really good in school at all. But I think when I went to a music class, I didn't really need any help because, like, there was just something that really I gravitated towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like it almost took me home, you know, because like I'm like my whole family are surrounded by it. So I felt like I was in my own wee world to the point where I was like, I can do this myself. Obviously, learning theory and stuff like that. That was another thing in itself.
Yeah.
When it came to the practical side, I was like, nah, I've I've got this. Like, I can just kind of do what I want. It's a playground for me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for as a whole, Brannock probably like because obviously there's not a lot of schools in Scotland and stuff that have that type of language communication department. It's just so hard to find because autism is so it's much more common now, especially more in women more because
Mm-hmm.
I was in quite a lot of classes where it was just boys and stuff. But as I was going into Brannock, there was slowly starting to become more like kind of women, people with autism and stuff like that. So that's it's pretty interesting. What was I saying? Sorry, I've got the cold, so I'm like kind of
No,
my
that's it.
brain's haywire there. So
But I mean, like obviously, looking at like because you're describing and like kind of the way it manifested itself with you, and
yeah,
obviously, like I've got experience with my son, but I mean, he's completely different, a lot more introverted. The obsessions come out. It used to at the start it was cars, and then it turned into trains.
yeah,
Musically, he loves Eurovision, which fuck knows, man. That's no my cup of tea, but absolutely
mm,
obsessed with it. But aye, so this is the thing. People give autism the label, but they don't realise how many different things it affects and how everybody's still an individual.
yeah, definitely.
So obviously as well, you kind of touched on bullying. How was that? How was that then to come through that? It must be a lot harder with the autism as well.
I think just kind of sort of just not knowing how to react to it. So some people can obviously take the piss and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
But I guess when you're on the spectrum and there's that kind of thought of like you take it quite to heart, and you do, especially when you're autistic and stuff. But I guess people kind of seen that as a target to continue doing it,
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it turned into bullying and stuff like that. And you know what? For good fucking reason, because my school band was called Stuck in a Sling, and that's an embarrassment. Like it's like looking back, right? So basically, so when it was a music teacher that put me and my two other schoolmates together. And I'm like, oh yeah, you should like make a band and stuff like that. Like I was like, well, we've not got a bass player because it was just literally a drummer, guitarist, and singer.
Hmm.
And I played guitar as well, obviously. And at the time, my schoolmate was better than me. But yeah, so I was like, oh, I see what happens and whatever. We've done a couple of gigs and stuff. But then before the gig started, it was like a school show or something like that. Our drummer broke his collarbone and dislocated his shoulder. So he like was out for 2 weeks, and we were still looking for band names. They got stuck in a sling, and people thought it was cool, and so did we. But then later on, it just became an embarrassment because the sling was off. Why are you called that name now? So it's like we just get called it and called it and called it. But I think just like going back to the bullying side of things, because I would still like post things and like on Facebook at the time, and like where it was to do with the band or me just like playing a song and something like that. There would always be that kind of slight sort of bullying where like certain people who were doing the bullying were tagging their pals in comments and stuff like that, and they didn't really make it, you know, didn't appear like, oh, I hear this, you're that, but I could just tell they were just subtly like talking to themselves like in private, and it pissed me off, you know, as a teenager. But yeah, I think fast forward to like leaving because obviously the band finished about, I think when we got into maybe fifth or sixth year, I think. So the band finished about then. Obviously, it was a bit raw and stuff like that because when you've kind of worked hard on something that you know you think is going to take you places, you're like, fuck, what's next, you know? So I think that's kind of where the self discovery started, I think, and like I sort of like took a step back from the limelight and stuff, and just kind of you know, a lot of that stuff stopped, and I think for the better because I met a much better group of people because some of the people that I was in the band with anyway are one was quite cocky and like wasn't really a nice person and stuff, and I guess you can kind of describe him as part of the pack where he doesn't really understand autism and stuff and how I react to certain things, so that kind of opened my eyes a bit. And I guess later on when I got to that sort of time frame, that's when I discovered the band called The Vistas, which I wasn't in at the time. I was kind of keeping my eyes on them and stuff, and I was always like kind of hoping I'd get a message or a call or something like that to be like, oh, I want to do it, because they were selling out like their locals and Wishy and stuff like that, and it's like we never got that. I was like, I want a piece of that. So then our singer Johnny Irwin messaged me one day and she's like, oh, we're looking for a bassist, like, do you want to come and like audition and stuff like that? So he kind of came over and stuff like that, and we jammed out the songs and stuff, and then that was it. Basically, the rest was history. So
how did they find you then? Like, did you know them from the scene?
see, it's funny. There was a place in Hamilton called I can't remember the actual. So it was called HUC, but I think it was Hamilton Universal Connections. I think that's what it standed for. It was kind of like closer to. It was quite close to the kind of main street of Hamilton, whatever. But you could go there and like record a live session and stuff, and you could like put a gig on in there. And Johnny Irwin was actually one of those people that was part of the bullying at the time. But then later on, he apologised and like, you know, like he said that it was out of line and said like, "Oh, you're actually a good musician and stuff." That's kind of where I sort of saw him from. So yeah, like it was sort of a like I don't know how many years ago it was before then, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago. That's when I was kind of keeping my eye on them and stuff like that and following them. Because then obviously when I got that sort of respect from Johnny, that's when I was like, yeah, I want to be in a band with them. They look great, you know. Aye, that's kind of where it sort of I discovered them.
Obviously, you mentioned like the Vistas. How long into the Vistas then did it change to Luna the Professor, and kind of talk me about that story? Because
Probably about I'd probably say about 2 or 3 years. I think I can't quite pinpoint it, but I think when we started to kind of do a lot like much more bigger gigs and stuff like that, that's when we sort of like looked at Spotify and looked at social media and stuff, and looking at the band Vistas and stuff. And when we were releasing music, we weren't really getting playlisted at all. And we saw Vistas getting playlisted, and I was like, I wonder why that is. And then we were like, oh, did we just tell them to change the name? Because we had it first technically, because we'd done our research and stuff. And being teenagers, we're like, oh yeah, like we can take us to court or like do whatever if they don't change the name. But it doesn't work like that at all. So we literally, I can't remember who it was that messaged the guitarist or something like that. We just kindly asked, like, listen, like, I know there's been quite a bit of kind of clashing on Spotify and social media and stuff like that. Is it okay if you could like consider changing your name? And the guitarist was like, nah, sorry, we can't. We're like, right, okay, well, let's just ship sail and start again. So we basically removed. But we had an EP out and stuff, and we had a couple of singles and stuff as the Vistas. We were like, let's just take them down. But with that, as well as changing the name, we started again. We started writing again. Luckily enough, around that time, I don't know if you remember a band called Vigo Thieves. So the bassist in that band, Gordon Phipps,
Lovely
Johnny
heady
met.
hair. Lovely
I
heady
know,
hair,
I know.
Gordon.
It's cracking. Johnny, our singer, met him on a night out, and he was like heading home, like from town or something like that, on the train. And I think that's when they got started talk when they got started, and then that's when he wanted to kind of meet up with us and kind of want to manage us and stuff. And luckily, being in with the Vigo Thieves, Stevie Jukes as well, and Alan Jukes are obviously now in the St Phoenix band with Nathan Evans. Fantastic songwriters. Stevie was lucky enough to kind of work with us as well and kind of get involved. Co-written with Johnny and stuff, and he helped co-write our single "You," that was kind of the single that kind of took it off a bit, and yeah, it got playlisted, thankfully on Spotify, to Spotify playlists. So all of that kind of teamwork sort of helped, I think, take us to the next step, which was exactly what we asked for. So it was good.
See, when you think of that, that's even just in Wish Your Mother, we'll see like the scene then.
Yeah.
Obviously, you mentioned Vigo Thieves, obviously, one of my good pals, Jim McNally, obviously, Jim and Jamie from La Fontaine's, now the Glass
Yep.
Jet. And I mean, just looking last night, there was another band that I seen in Girwoods called La Fleur, and it was a boy, Paul McGregor, the front man. Absolutely
Yes.
class band, man. Really
I know.
good
I know.
band, man.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Our guitarist used to work with him in VPZ in Wishy. So I know him quite well, stuff. But yeah, I've grew up with LaFleur and stuff as well. Great guys as well. Like they're really nice as people as well. Great musicians and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy because
Well,
it's good.
because I was checking him out on Facebook, and he must be in like his third or fourth kind of inclination of what he is in the music. So I'm
Yeah,
going to need to have a deep dive on him, and I'll maybe contact him and get him on the podcast as well.
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, looking at the gigs and all that you played with London and the Professor, every time you played Glasgow, by the looks at he sold it out.
Yeah.
So how does that feel? Because like a lot of these gigs are before kind of the single releases, but you're selling out, you're building a following. So at that point, how did you feel your career was going to go in music?
I felt like it was obviously when we first sold out Glasgow and stuff like that. It was an amazing feeling, and I felt like the only way was up really. But you know, when you're selling out like King Tuts and stuff, it's a good thing to have for like DF concerts and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because that can obviously get you things like potential like transmit if you have a great relationship and stuff like that. And yeah, I think what I then sort of discovered, like, you know, the music's that saturated that I think it's more so just luck, you know? And that's kind of what we learned the hard way, because we sort of started looking at transmit and stuff, like wanting to kind of put ourselves for that. But it's kind of like a pick and choose sort of thing with DF concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can, like, I don't know, like it's tricky. It's tricky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because understandably there is so many indie bands out there and stuff. And yeah, I think when I go into the reason why Luna split, I think it makes a lot of sense as to why we may have not been picked for Transmit.
Right.
So yeah, it's I'm not causing beef or anything like that, but there's no beef with anyone. But Yeah, I always thought when I was in Luna, like, oh yeah, I want to make it, I want to get signed and stuff like that. And we were always aiming for that, whether it be transfer or not, we'd still aim for it, you know. Um,
Hmm.
we get offered a, and it's bad. I can't remember what the record deal was. It was the same one that St Phoenix were on anyway, and we got offered a contract and stuff. But some of the members were kind of wanting to go through lawyers and stuff. We unfortunately got quite a bad lawyer who ended up taking a holiday around the time that we wanted to obviously look over the contract and just make sure that we were doing the right thing and stuff. We didn't want to sign it straight away.
Yeah, totally.
In
You
case
need to
in case, in
protect
case it
yourself.
comes. Aye, definitely, because it can be.
Yeah, that's
But yeah,
if you sign a record contract and then fucking 2 years down the line you realise you're fucking tied into it, you can't get out, and so
aye,
it's a minefield, and I think a lot of the time that's what they do because they're banking on a band of young boys that aren't the kind of savvy in the industry, and they're just going to sign away their career.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
obviously,
think
like touching on the touch thing, because I managed a band there for about a year and a half, and I've been away for the band for about a year now. I'm actually speaking to the lead singer tomorrow in the podcast, but
right.
that's the same with them. Like played King Tut's 3 or 4 times, and you think, right, well, obviously get this relationship. We're going to get offered Transmit. It's not as
Aye,
easy as that because, as you
no,
say, there is 10 bands the same as you, so
aye,
it really is pot luck.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And obviously, it's I think what's good about um certain communities in the industry, we're all very supportive of each other, you know. So like, um, I'm part of that kind of group where I'm not really bitter about people getting opportunities better than me, you know, because like I used to when I was younger, but like, what's the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not really any point at all because like everyone's got their own success, you know. So it really doesn't matter. Like, you just got to be supportive and happy, like because. Um, as they say, it's nice to be nice.
And like talking about supporters, obviously like um your first like when you first started as Luna and the Professor,
Yeah.
Vigo Thieves gave you support at Tuts December
Yes.
the 23rd, 2017. A
Wow.
year later, December the 23rd, 2018, La Fontaine support at the Civic,
Jeez. Oh.
which I can mind that gig. That was an amazing gig, and I think that's the first time I seen Newsboys live. But
Yeah.
looking at that gig and then kind of the following year, basically that's when all the singles were released. So
Yeah.
kind of that La Fontaine support in your hometown, how did that feel kind of playing the Civic and then the kick on that gave you for the following year for the releases?
I can't believe you can remember those dates. That's crazy. That was a great night. It was a great night. I think because it obviously started like because La Fontaines were looking for support and they wanted to get people to tag in the comments of what bands they wanted to get. So we were like messaging everybody to like be like, get us in the comments, just tag us, tag us, tag us. And then eventually we got it. On the day of the gig, it was pretty mental, you know, like massive stage and stuff. So it was pretty cool. But obviously it was around that Christmas period. So we invited our friend Amanda Bogle, also known as Sadie Marie,
Mm-hmm.
for those out there, to come in and play a Christmas song. So we done Fairy Tale New York and we done a couple of rehearsals prior to that. And the funny story about that is on the day of the gig, we never saw her like at all in the venue or anything. So we never met up prior. I'm not too sure. It was that long ago now. But what I do remember is when the song was about to come on during the set, we were kind of looking at the side for Amanda, being like, "Where is she?" Because we're just playing it and stuff like that. Like Johnny's singing away, and me and the rest of the band are looking at the side, going like, "Where the fuck is she? Like she's not there." And we're like, the drop tag." Well, that's it to me. And we keep looking around. And then when it got to the end, before the drums kicked in, do 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 do, and she's right behind me on the other side, gives Johnny a fright, and then we're like, da, 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 and it all kicks in. We're like, oh, thank God, man, because I thought she never turned up at all. Like,
Oh,
imagine if I had to take the vocal, man. That'd be fucking embarrassing. But that was a funny memory from that night. Yeah, like I think for that night itself, it was great. Just like having all those people that are La Fontaine's fans and stuff. I think that kind of brought a much wider fan base, and especially
Hmm.
in Lanarkshire as well. Not just Wishaw as well, because I'm from Motherwell, but the rest of the boys are from Wishaw. Um, so it was good to kind of reach a bit further out in Lanarkshire, which was
Hmm.
nice, you know. So yeah, for sure.
Because that's me saying, like, obviously that's the first time I'd seen you, because round about then, so like, as I say, I got an 18-year-old, so like my kids he'd have been 4 or 5, so I was at that stage where I wasn't going to Glasgow, I wasn't going to gigs,
Yeah,
so I was consuming most of my music in Girwoods. So I'd seen Sadie Marie, Amanda, I'd seen her in Girwoods countless times. That's where I'd seen La Fleur. I was going and seeing Jim and Jamie in Girwoods. So um, obviously I was a big gig goer when I was younger, and then obviously you have kids and it's really hard. And now I'm like fucking back on it constantly.
yeah,
I need at least 2 gigs a month, otherwise I'm not happy. So, I mean, that leads us into then 2019. Start the year off, King Tut's New Year's Revolution,
yeah,
um, and then your 3 singles released, You, Dreamers, and Romeo and Juliet, released throughout the
yeah.
year. This Feeling tour in amongst that.
Yep, yep,
PJ Malloy's Tenement Trail for the second year in a row. So everything's going well. As I say, all your Glasgow gigs selling out. So when I spoke to your dad, obviously, and he said, "Oh, you might know my son. He was in one of the Professor." I said, "Oh, aye, brilliant band." I was right into them. The first thing he says, "Guess how much he made for these songs?" And I was like, I kind of know where that story goes. You know what I mean? How hard is that? Because see, when you're just starting out releasing music, you've got that kind of perception that, so we've released a song, where the money's going to start coming in.
yeah.
What's that like then, the realisation that fucking you're no quitting your jobs or anything like that?
I think it was quite shocking, to be honest with you, because like um when we first got, so for the single For You, um I think when we got to about 45,000 streams or something like that, or 50,000, I can't remember, something along those lines. I think it only arranged to about 40 quid in total. That's how bad it is. So for those who don't know, it's very, very shy. It's 0.0000 something pennies like per stream. It's really bad. So yeah, it was a bit shocking, but luckily at the time we were studying music, so we, like me, Johnny and our guitarist Ross, went to New College Lanarkshire in Motherwell to study music, HNC and HND. So we were living off SAS, to be honest with you. Just kind of student loans and stuff. So as teenagers, we were getting by, you know.
Hmm.
Had jobs and stuff like that, but me, I didn't, because, like, as I said, I wasn't good in school, so music was my calling. And being autistic, like, I just couldn't work in things like retail or hospitality or something like that, like dealing with people.
These are the exact conversations I'm having right now with my boy, trying to get him a job.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. So like, there's so many elements of the condition you struggle with, because as much as like you might get trained on something, as soon as you get approached by a customer or something, like you freeze and you get absolutely no idea. Because I done a thing in 6 year, because in the language communication base, you kind of get took out of things like, because I could drop French in 3rd year for
Hmm.
like extra time in the base to kind of like work on other things as well, like other subjects. But in 6th year there was a thing called employability. So one day a week you'd go to a place like at your local and work somewhere. So I worked in Wilkinson's, which is no longer a supermarket, I don't think. So I worked in there, And I got a lot of assistants and stuff like that. But every single time someone would ask me a question, I would just say I'm in work experience, and that's it. Like I just like I would not know where things are, because one of the things that I know that retail is like, in some retail stores, a lot of the aisles change. So like toiletry stuff could get moved to another part of the store, like a year or so, or maybe a couple of months or so down the line. So used to like regiment sort of routines. Whereas if someone breaks that routine, I've lost it. You know what I mean? So I'm not really good with that, like especially if it's something I'm not passionate about, it really does has a hindrance on my condition for sure. So the closest kind of job I could like do something that was easy and repetitive and I knew what I was doing was a warehouse job. In COVID, I'd work in like Royal Mail, just sorting parcels and stuff, and then I'd move over to Amazon, and that was horrible.
What Royal Mail were you working in?
It was the one in Eurocentral. I'm sure it's moved now. I think
Right.
not entirely sure. It was seasonal work anyway.
Yeah, so it'd be the Christmas one, just open for Christmas. Just because I work Royal Mail in Wishaw, and I thought,
Right,
Christ, I hope I've no met you down there, and I've forgot about you.
no, no. um, no, it was just literally just kind of sorting parcels and stuff like that. But aye, it was seasonal work and it was fine. People were nice and it was good money, so I fairly enjoyed it. But obviously, you get let go after seasonal work. But even worse than that comes COVID, so we're stuck in the house. So
Which, which obviously after that year that you've had, like, because those three singles, You, Dreamers, and Romeo and Juliet,
yeah,
all three of them are bangers.
aye,
Songs that you should be immensely proud of. To then
thank
get
you.
into the following year, and everything, the fucking world to turn to shit. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
It's
know.
like fucking, like, if that be the year that you were going to kick on, I'd imagine.
Yes,
Look at all your gigs, all your Glasgow gigs. The natural thing then, after the free releases, as you're saying, festivals, taking it down south, as doing all
yeah,
that, which kind of, you robbed it. You robbed it because of COVID.
aye,
I'm nearly 150 episodes in. Most people that I've spoke to talk about COVID and that it's actually helped them as a band because they've had time to kind of get away and kind of reinvent themselves or whatever. But for yourself, obviously, you've been Vistas, you've reinvented yourself as Luna and the Professor. Everything's taken off, and then this comes. Was that kind of then the beginning and the end for the band? COVID.
Um, at the time, thinking no, but looking back, yeah, definitely. Um, I think with our musical sort of direction or pause, I think the musical direction was paused or just like spiraling. Um, we were all just like thinking like, well, what the hell are we gonna do? We can't record. Like we used to meet up and do demos on my MacBook, and I'd record into Logic and make demos and stuff. All of that stopped as well. So I think it only got to the point where there was hope when the restrictions got lifted. So we would meet up then and sort of make demos and stuff for that. But that's where the hope sort of came back a bit. But then, like, our singer started kind of like, he was probably the main person that it was going in a very different direction to the point where, it didn't really become musical anymore. It became a bit more sort of on the personal side with certain people in the band. So when we'd get together, we would usually just kind of hang out as mates. If not, we'd be recording demos, but um, more so we'd hang about more as mates. And yeah, things happened and stuff, and it just didn't really get pretty and stuff. It was wanting to like kick people out of the band and stuff and start something fresh. Like he kind of got in this sort of like poppy direction, kind of like almost like Saint Phoenix, because that's where a lot of that sort of influence came from for him.
Mhm.
Um, so he wanted to kick certain people out due to either like musically or personally and stuff. But obviously, as a person who they know each other more than I know them, so I guess when I joined the band, like, because obviously it started out as the Vistas, a year or two in, I'm still looking at yous and going like, I'm still learning about yous, I'm still getting to know yous and stuff. And I don't really know the whole backstory of some of their personal stuff. So I'm looking at it and going like, that's not fair. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really fair to do that. But I didn't really sort of say anything, and I wish I did, you know, because yeah, nothing really got done about it, which was, you know, I suppose good in itself. He didn't really kind of go up and go, oh, you're fucked out, or whatever. Like you're no in this or whatever. Because I didn't really agree with it, you know.
Mhm.
Um, he just decided to leave and go on his own path and stuff. And that's when, obviously, in 2021, was it? I'm sure.
Yeah,
I think it was 2020, 21.
yeah,
He put out the post that he was leaving Luna. So yeah, it was with the help of Stevie, of course. It was yeah, it was going to go in a kind of solo career. And then 5 years later or so, um, still nothing, you know. So
yeah,
when he left and stuff, like he wanted to, like we wanted to find a new singer and stuff. We wanted to go for someone who was maybe female and maybe start off something fresh. But I think COVID was still was still a big impact on our mental health, to the point where we're like I just can't be arsed, man. Like we can't
yeah.
really be
Just
arsed going through that whole process again when we don't know what's going to happen when things start to open up again. When will it open up again? You know. So we just kind of lost the momentum for it, and it just sort of
it would have been
died
tough
off.
as well. It would have been really tough when it like coming out of COVID and the band's completely different with a new if it's a female singer as well. It's just
Yeah,
it would be a lot of reinventing and you'd feel
yeah,
like you were starting out for the bottom again.
aye,
So the band stopped, and obviously, like Ross, I bump into him from time to time as well. He's been a kind of great help. Obviously, as I said, I managed that band, and just bump into him. He would offer advice, and he was pretty candid on music as well with
yeah,
his new band Resistor and how hard it was to get gigs and record deals and stuff like that. And once you get a record deal, the kind of the interference that the labels put on you as well. So
yeah.
there must be as well a sort of feeling of being better off out of that as well in the stuff that you're doing now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that's where I sort of like opened my eyes a bit, just personally as me, because in 2021, that's when I got the opportunity to teach as well. So I teach guitar, and I worked for a business in the south side of Glasgow called, well, at the time it was called Glasgow Music Academy, but now it's called Amplify. And yeah, I used to like just teach over Zoom and stuff like that. No experience whatsoever with dealing with kids or anything like that. I never even thought of even like teaching kids, because like little like 15-year-old me would be like, no, like I can't deal with kids. But I just kind of, you know, as soon as the camera started, like I just kind of channeled this, you know, masking, I guess, to just kind of do my best, because I think I was really desperate for a job. Because at the time, like I was during like the kind of when the restrictions get lifted in 2020, I was working for Amazon and stuff. And they really fucked me about, like calling me in like to work and then cancelling at last minute, like my shifts
Hmm.
and stuff. It was just horrible. Um, I don't know what I like now, but they're a horrible, horrible company to work with. But anyway, on the topic of fuck, I forgot what I was saying. I forgot what I was saying.
Kind of talking about the tutoring and teaching young kids.
Aye, that's it, that's it. Yeah, I just as soon as that camera turned on, I was like, God, I've just done my first lesson. That's quite crazy. So I got given like a shift and stuff like that to like teach certain people and stuff, and different levels and stuff. Mainly all just kids, to be honest. And I had that impression where I thought I need to be the best guitarist ever, but I wasn't. But really, research says that like if you're better than the student you're teaching, then you are qualified to teach, you know. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try and make this a full-time thing. So I worked really hard to kind of study a lot about teaching and like make up lesson plans and stuff. And yeah, just do the best I can. But as soon as things started to open up more again, I was still in Motherwell, so I couldn't really drive. I wasn't driving either. So the guy who I was working for was promising me the world and stuff like that, and then didn't really fall through with his promise. So luckily I found Main Street Studios in Coatbridge. Brian Embry, who runs the studio, messaged me on Instagram being like, I'm looking for a tutor. Would you be interested in joining? I was like, aye, yes. And just with the whole, like, the message that I got from Brian, that proper relaxed approach and stuff like that, and actually being there, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna quite enjoy this, because it felt quite wishy-washy with the first person I worked with. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna really try this now. So going to the studio close by as well, which was great. So I'd get a lift or get a train or something. Everyone was really nice, and it was actually good to teach in person rather than over the phone or Zoom, because you can actually show them properly, like where to put your fingers on the fretboard and stuff, and play along to music as well, because that was another thing you couldn't do. So yeah, it was something that I definitely wanted to make my full-time thing. But I was balancing that with a warehouse job. I was in the co-op, the big co-op warehouse in Newhouse near this Eurocentral. So I was balancing all that whilst going to teach at Main Street. And then I pushed it. I pushed myself to really make it a full-time thing. So I got more hours, and I asked very nicely if I can go part-time in the co-op. But I ended up paying a price where I'd only get 1 day off a week, work at weekends, get 1 day off during the week, but teach other days as well. But yeah, like I think kind of going to that topic of what you were talking about, like when you discover stuff like that, like you sort of realise, like, it's not all about making it and getting signed and stuff like that. That's not what music is about. Like, you can make it however you want to be. So I think teaching is definitely one of those main sources of income that I'm quite lucky to be in, because yeah, you don't need to like make a living just for like world tours all the time and stuff like that. So that's not what it's about. It's about there's so many different things you can do in music. It's just
Yeah.
hard, it's just hard to get there.
And how did the session work? When was the first time you get involved in session work?
So in 2022 I got asked by a person called Johnny Madden, who was in the band Baby Strange,
Hmm.
to come along and do session work for. They were doing a UK and EU tour, and they were playing Transmit as well. I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, what? I was like, because obviously they were taking auditions and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, of course I'd love to come audition. So they gave me a list of songs to play and stuff, and went to rehearse for them, and went for a drink and stuff like that, and got chatting. And then, like, as soon as I got home, like, they messaged me and said, like, you're a great fit, like, you can come along, and we'd like to have you on and stuff like that, and session for us. And I was like, aye, like, definitely. So yeah, played Transmit, and like, because that was technically the first gig I done, but I think before all that, I got asked to play in a Psy records store in Edinburgh. So that was the kind of the warm up gig to kind of get us going. Nervous as anything, but after that, weeks in the line, it was Transmit, and I was there all day, kind of just watching all the people playing and stuff like that. And then it got closer to showtime, because we were headlining the river stage, the smaller stage at Transmit.
Hmm.
So that kind of put the pressure on a bit for me personally, um, to play a 45-minute set and not fuck up. So yeah, it was quite an experience. Probably one of the best highlights of my career, I think, playing Transmit,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah,
After striving for that for all the years with Luna, to then get
yeah,
it it must feel a bit surreal. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
obviously, as well as Baby Strange, she done sensation work with Resistor. So How
Yeah.
was that then? How was that then working with Ross again?
So it was kind of like because I would used to record demos and stuff like that when Luna, Roddy was like thinking like, oh, like to get us kind of going, like you could like record our demos if you want. I was like, aye, aye, sure. And then fast forward to that, they took them to a recording studio called Castle of Doom, that Jamie Holmes and Chris Marshall and Johnny Madden actually work at. So I went over and stuff, and I recorded some parts that I was in, any kind of guitar parts or backing vocals and stuff. And then it turned into like playing at their headline shows and stuff. Yeah, that turned into a bit of session work as well, which was good. So yeah, but I think when it started to die down was just schedules and busyness and stuff like that, because I was doing other work as well, and then on top of that, like Eamon, our drummer in Luna, was in a wedding band called the Jets, and he said to me like, "Listen, I think you'd be a great I think you'd be great at like singing and playing guitar. Band the Jets, like we're looking for a dep." And I was like, oh, I don't know, man, I don't know, because I've never been a front man like, really, and since I was like in that fucking stuck in a sling band and school band, aye. So I was like, oh no, I don't know, man. Yeah, it kind of all worked out in the end because I was like, you know what, I'll give it a go and see. So we played in a venue called Bohemia, which was just a bar gig in Edinburgh, and I just gave it a right good go. And then came after that was a couple of weddings I got asked to be on and stuff, and that was like really hard because I got given all these songs to learn. Like the repertoire is like 300 plus songs. I was like, you expect me to learn that? Like, come on, fuck, man, 300 songs, and you've given me like a month or 2 months, man. Like, oh man. But I did what I could. Luckily, it gets boiled down to about 60 songs, 3.5 hours of playing. But now, when I'm playing half-hour sets or 45-minute sets, that feels like nothing. Because now I'm in a wedding band full time. That's another source of income that I've got as
There
well.
must be decent money in that because I mean, there's people getting married constantly, man. That must
Aye.
be kind of.
Yeah, for sure. It's like it's more so like kind of in summertime and stuff like that. That's the peak time to get married and stuff. There is quiet spells like January and kind of end of December and whatever. But the good thing is like when you join the band, in fact, you don't even need to rehearse. Like as long as you're in a band with good musicians that can learn the songs and stuff, like you never ever need to meet up and rehearse. You just learn the first dance or the father and daughter dance and
Hmm.
get together and hope it sounds all right. And then most of the time it does. So yeah, that's kind of like where I was like, this is kind of where it's at now, for me personally. I'll still do session work and stuff like that, like if anyone asks me, as long as it fits my schedule, because like it's much harder now being in a wedding band because I'm doing about 80 gigs or something like that this year. So
Hmm.
I'm constantly out at weekends, mostly, sometimes midweek as well. So it can be hard to fit in other work on top of that. But as well as that, I do recording sessions as well. So I kind of channeled my skill to from the recording days, like doing demos and stuff, because Main Street Studios want to kind of push for recording now. So I've started recording a couple of bands and artists and stuff like that have came into the studio. I was actually doing a session yesterday with one of the student bands because um, when I say student, all the students can get put into a band program and they get to play like showcases and other venues. In fact, there was a gig a couple of weeks ago, two actually. One was they played in Airdrie Town Hall to like 200 people, sold out, like all friends and family and stuff of theirs. And then there was a couple of bands playing St Luke's in the big room, and these kids are like 16 and 18 and stuff like that. It's
Brilliant
insane.
experience for them.
Aye, 100%. And it's the work that we put in to kind of make them gig ready. So yeah, kind of going back to the recording side, we're starting to kind of push that for students plus anyone who isn't part as a student, to come and record because, for any kind of local bands and stuff, it's a great opportunity to do that and the reviews are good. Put it that way. So yeah, you definitely won't be disappointed if you're looking to come and record, you know. But yeah, mixing that with wedding band and stuff, like it's a really, really good balance, you know, plus teaching as well. So yeah, it's all kind of worked out itself after all of that hope and hard work growing up in an actual band, original band and stuff. Yeah, it's all paid off. And then we're all doing our own things now. Like we've done teaching. Ross is now a graphic designer full time. So he used to actually help us with the artwork for. I mean, we all kind of jointly did it. On Photoshop, so we done the artwork for all the singles and stuff. So yeah, he channeled that and made that his full time job as well. And Eamon's a full time drum teacher. He's on music school in Glasgow. So and we're still best mates. So it's all worked out.
That's brilliant, man. It's a brilliant, a really nice story. It's been a journey, and to get you
Yeah,
to where you are. But one of the other things, obviously, I mean, the last part of the podcast, I got you to pick heroes. But the last thing that when your dad dropped me off, and
yeah,
obviously he was talking all about you, he's super proud of you. Then he started talking about your sister,
yes,
and he's like, before you leave, so we're sitting outside my house, and he played me this song that your sister had done. I think she'd recorded it for her pal's wedding or something.
yes, yes,
I think he said that you helped her with the recording or whatever, you played on
yeah,
it or whatever. Absolutely beautiful voice, and apparently she doesn't want to do that full time.
yeah,
Absolutely brilliant voice, man. She's like absolutely amazing.
yeah. Erin was like she was a big singer like growing up and stuff like that. She get involved in a lot of the kind of um schoolwork like choirs and stuff like that. She was part of the sensational choir at one point, but then she kind of just lost her confidence a bit, and it's been that way ever since, you know. And I guess life sort of got in the way of that and working as well. So we're kind of nudging Erin to get back into it, you know. And my mum and dad have been like, "Oh, why don't you like set up like a duo and go and do like wedding receptions and stuff?" But there's two things. One is my schedule with Fira, my wedding band, and two, we need to get on. So that's just two things holding it back. But I really wish Erin would like, you know, if she could like find someone to do it with to kind of give her some like come for something that she loves doing, you know. I know she loves doing it. It would be really good, you know, especially for her. Like, when you're working mad hours and stuff like that, it can be quite tiring as well. And to just go and like do a couple of hours of singing and get a decent pay
Mm.
is great, you know. So yeah, not obviously she's not ready right now, but when that time comes, hopefully she'll go forth with it, you know.
Absolutely beautiful song.
Yeah,
Have you got the recording handy? Because I'd like to hear it again. See if you could send me it so that I can listen again.
yeah. I'll have a look for it and I'll fire it over. Yeah, for sure.
So, I absolute pleasure speaking. The last part of the podcast, obviously, it's called Time for Heroes. So I asked my guests to pick four heroes to come for dinner, dead or alive, whatever walk of life you want. Why are they your heroes? And what would you cook for them as well?
So obviously, so I'm gonna say like all of them are gonna be there at the one time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Some people invite them separately. Some people have them, but I mean, my vision is you're inviting these four people to sit around a table there.
yeah. Well, that's good because I've only just got good at cooking. So I'm gonna say my dish would be um Korean barbecue chicken thighs with sticky rice. Super
Lovely,
easy to make, but it's beautiful, man. Follow a lot of kind of TikTok recipes to kind of help to kind of teach me how to cook and stuff. So, um, from people that I've cooked for, they've said that's like amazing. So that would be my dish.
brilliant.
So my first guess would be Matty Healy from the 1975. The reason I would have him around is because I've always grew up with the 1975 as a teenager. Their first album really helped me a lot when I was like when my school band finished and stuff. I got really depressed and stuff, and it was their music kind of helped me get through that. And if it wasn't for the 1975, I'd probably like be going to the doctors and getting said I've got depression and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, his music definitely helped me. But I think the reason I'd have him round is because I'd want to pick his brain and be like, how do you have such versatile music? How do you write such versatile music? And I'd like to pick his brain on music production as well. Like I would say George Daniel as well, the drummer, but I'd pick Matty Healy more because like I'd say he's the brains for it all and creating the image of what he's trying to go for in certain songs and stuff. Every single album I've listened to, I've listened to bands. I've grew up with bands like Catfish and the Bottlemen and stuff like that. But they became like so samey. And for music, I like a bit of versatility and something different. And they are the main band that I've always came back to. Like I've seen them like 4 times, and like I'll go and see them again if I could.
I think what I get for them is I've never really been into them, but they seem pretty resilient. A lot of they get a lot of negativity. I think they're kind of like Coldplay. Like Coldplay used to get a lot of negativity, and it seems to
Yeah,
be them. You get that because you're so big,
yeah,
so you get a lot of kickback there. Aye,
yeah,
absolutely massive band.
yeah,
And I get what you mean about Catfish as well, because like see those first two albums,
yeah,
it all sounds like every song sounds the same, and every songs get the same structure, the same kind of verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse. I spoke to Billy Bibby about this. So obviously, I had him on the podcast, and
oh wow,
he said a lot of the stuff that he wanted to do, kind of Van McCann put the kibosh on it.
yeah,
That's how. I mean, he left before I think the album was actually out.
yeah, yeah.
He'd already left, but a major part of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think for their first album, like I don't think anyone could really kind of capture that Billy Bibby guitar tone as well. Because like songs like Pacifier and stuff like that just kind of, everyone chants that back. So as much as Bondi's good, but yeah, as you said, he's definitely got a big part in that. But then again, as we said, samey. I just get bored of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's no invited. They're no invited to my dinner party. So
So we get Matty Healy.
yes, so my next person would be Prince. So for him, like I love 80s music and stuff like that, like and kind of early, kind of late 70s and stuff. Just his versatility in guitar tones and just the kind of pure poppiness and just how he writes and the fact that he can play every instrument known to man. And like I was listening to a song called Let's Work, and just like there's that kind of slappy bass line in that. I'm like, is that Prince playing that? Like he's playing the drums, he's playing the bass, he's playing the guitar, he's doing the synth as well, like all of it. Like he's a proper genius.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't just play guitar, I play bass and I sing obviously, um and I've always wanted to play drums. I do play a bit of drums, but I'm not amazing at it. And that's like one of the instruments that I wish that I could have properly grew up with and um, be allowed to play, because obviously drums are hard to get by with the
Yeah.
parents and that. You know what I mean? Like noise and shit. Oh, yeah, that's kind of an instrument that I wish that I sort of uh, picked up properly. But never say never. Never say never. These things, as well as that piano and synth as well. That's the kind of two main ones that I wish that I could play. If
Mm-hmm.
I were cooking him a meal, I'd exchange a lesson from him. Yeah, that's what I would do for Prince. My third person is John Cena, and I've definitely not spoken about this at the start, but growing up, I was really into wrestling. So I used to play the PlayStation games, and I watched the shows from time to time when I could, because it was obviously live in America, and it was on like American channels and Sky Sports and stuff. Never had that at all. So used to have the games, used to have wrestling figures as well. But then growing up, like obviously you discover that it's not actually people, they're not actually punching each other, and it's sort of fake. But so I kind of grew out of that, and then obviously last year, for those who know or don't know, he retired from wrestling, so he done like a whole retirement tour. for the year, and that's kind of where my engagement came back for wrestling. And I think for what he stands for, like as a person, not just as the wrestler, but as a person as well, when you get down, you pick yourself back up and you do it again. You never give up. Basically, that's kind of what his motto is. So I guess reflecting back on all of that and looking at him as a person, I would like to sort of pick his brain and how he sort of like how he thinks that way, and like if there's been any other stuff that he's been through that's been a lot of hardship, and it's like because if I fail at something or like get told off for something or anything negative, like I'd struggle to like forget that. It takes me a
Yeah.
while, like for someone who's got autism. So yeah, I would like to kind of take a bit more inspo from the greatest of all time, as they call him. So
Have you been watching? You've been watching on Netflix, or so it's on
yes,
Netflix now. But I
yes,
mean,
yes,
like the thing that I like the most there is see the documentary, mate, where you see kind of the real life and how they
yeah.
kind of build up the storylines.
Yeah, yeah. I found that really, really interesting because like I've always wanted to know like what they're like as people behind the closed doors and stuff. You got all the kind of big legends like The Undertaker and that, well, all the people that aren't in it anymore because they had this big character that they would never see the real person at all outside of the industry. So kind of look at that and going like, yeah, these actually are just real people. They're just normal people. And at the end of the day, yeah, it was very interesting to watch. So I've actually to finish the second season, but yeah, I really enjoy that. But
Yeah, I think
as someone who's grown up and stuff like that, it's like who cares about the kayfabe? Like we're adults now, so we can see all that.
on the wrestling figures. When I was younger, my auntie and uncle stayed in America, and they sent me over the rockers. So I had the rockers. Nobody else had them, and I had the rockers, and I had them 2 weeks, and they split up.
Really, jeez. I don't. I've definitely not had rockers, but I think the closest thing to something breaking is I had my mum's pal's dog come over, and my uncle Kevin, who's passed away now, he gave me a lot of kind of his. He got like wrestling figures from like a car boot sale or something like that, or something along those lines. And then I came in, and one of my wrestlers' figures were like chewed up to buggery. So by a wee Bichon Frise. So I was pretty heartbroken. So but it's fine. I had about 30 odd, so I was not really complaining. It was one of my favourite wrestlers, so I was a bit gutted about it. So but yeah, I loved him. I loved him. And I loved wrestling as well. So but yeah, John Cena was definitely one that I'd
Mhm.
invite round. And my last person would be he's not a non-fictional he's a fictional character. But I'd invite Ted Lasso.
Uh-huh.
And I guess there's maybe a slight similarity with John Cena, I suppose. But watching Ted Lasso, I guess the kind of difference between the two of them, Ed's like if he gets like he'll want to try something new, and he'll put all these eggs in one basket and just go for it. So if I discover anything like any instrument that I want to try, um, I'll go ahead and properly go for it. I got given a mandolin actually off someone, so I'm midway of learning that.
Right.
So I'm very excited about doing that. I'm loving a lot of kind of folk music and kind of folk country stuff as well. Yeah, that's got me really excited for that. But yeah, for Ted Lasso as well as that, like for his character, if you've ever watched it, he always puts on a face. And I guess for me, comparing that to me, I'm masking. So one of the parts in the show ends up opening up about um, his struggles in the past and mental health as well. And it sort of taught me to like, it's okay to not be okay. And you can talk to people about how you're feeling as well. And it sort of taught me to be a bit of an open book with people, and not just put on this face all the time, you know. Any sort of like mental struggles or something like that. yeah, I'll, you know, it's because a lot of men don't really speak about mental health and stuff, like, and my friends are obviously like, one of them especially, we call regularly, and yeah, it's good to just have check-ins with people, because like you just don't know what people are going through, so even just a quick phone call makes like a big difference to them, you know.
Totally.
So yeah,
Especially,
I'd,
I mean,
I,
even just in our area, it's been kind of mental health's been a big topic. I just my pals at the Celtic Supporters podcast, we just done a raffle last Friday night and raised over £2,000 for Chrissy's house. So
yeah,
I mean it's a major thing.
yeah. But I think, yeah, I think it's super important, because like the death toll for suicide is crazy for men, and it's something that shouldn't be ignored. So yeah, but I think for Ted, like, if you watch the program, like, his jokes are absolutely piss rotten, but you laugh at them anyway, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'd have him round for that kind of company, but also um, not be afraid to talk to them about something that I might be feeling. And yeah, I hope they all enjoy my food.
I'm just worried about John Cena putting people through tables at this dinner party.
Oh no, man! Don't want to start with him, or I'll be getting lifted, and my table will be broken,
Better
man.
make sure that dinner's good for him.
Oh no, to make sure it's not raw, or people make sure that, don't give them too much drink, or they'll be wanting to square goal me, or square goal someone in here, you know. So yeah, that's who I'd have round for my dinner, you know.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. It's been a brilliant story, man. It's a brilliant journey, and you seem happy doing what you're doing, and you've got so much going on with the session work, with the teaching, and with the wedding band. So everything's kind of worked out all right in the end. It'll be a brilliant story. I think a lot of people will connect. A lot of people will get a lot of help for this, for listening to your story as well. So it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you very,
Thank you
very
very
much.
much. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, man. Thank
All
you.
righty.
Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, please contact me on the email timeforheroespod@gmail.com, or you can get me on Instagram at timeforheroespodcast. Thanks very much. We'll be back soon with another episode.
Cheers.